Hi, my name is Regina Romandetti, and for this week's assignment, I'm expanding my research on Italian-American life in New York City during Prohibition. In my earlier research, I focused on how Italian-American communities were structured around family networks, cultural identity, and neighborhood life, rather than just the negative stereotypes often associated with crime for Italian-Americans. While I continued this research, I used the Liberty University's Jerry Falwell Library databases, and I specifically used Project Muse and Oxford Academic, along with JSTOR, to deepen my research and understanding on my topic. During my research, I was surprised to find that historians are increasingly moving away from focusing only on the negative comments on organized crime and instead are examining the everyday lives of Italian Americans and how their identities were formed within urban communities like New York City. One example is from historian Simone Sinotto's work that highlights how Italian American identity was shaped through consumer culture, food traditions, and neighborhood life. This shows that identity was actively created within communities and was not defined by negative stereotypes. Another historian is Francisco Landolfi's research that provides a deeper look into the relationship between Italian Americans and law enforcement during the early 20th century. His work is on figures like Joe Pestosino's that highlights how policing efforts often focused heavily on Italian American communities, reinforcing the idea that Italians were closely connected to organized crime. While Landolfi acknowledges that criminal activity did exist during this period, he makes it very clear that it involved only a small portion of the population of Italian Americans. Despite this being stated and said throughout his work, Italian Americans were frequently portrayed as naturally inclined toward crime, which contributed to the widespread stereotypes of Italian Americans. This is important because it shows how law enforcement and public perception worked together to reshape a negative image of Italian Americans that extended beyond the reality of everyday community life. Another historian is Humbert Nelli's work that further supports this by emphasizing the importance of urban communities, family structures, and economic mobility. His research shows that Italian Americans built strong, stable communities that provided support and opportunity for immigrants adjusting to life in their new city, New York City. During this research, I also found primary source by Robert Forster, which reflects earlier 20th century views on Italian immigrants. His work helps demonstrate how Italians were perceived at the time, which contributes to the development of stereotypes that became more and more prominent during Prohibition. Overall, this expanded research that I did this week shows that Italian Americans' life during Prohibition was more complex than was originally portrayed. By focusing on community identity and their lived experiences, historians are able to challenge the stereotypes and provide a more accurate understanding of this group of people. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.